Aloha and welcome to the 6th Annual Hawaii Energy Conference, presented by the Maui Economic Development Board, with support from the Maui County Office of Economic Development. Please welcome Conference Chair Doug McLeod to the stage.
Good morning, folks, and aloha. We have a good day planned for you today. We're going to spend about 15 minutes talking about what happened yesterday, but before we can have that conversation, for those of us on the program committee, there was something missing yesterday, and it's time to take a moment to acknowledge that. Bash Nola was on our program committee every year until this year. This is the first time we put on an energy conference without him, and we wanted to take a minute and talk about him. I was thinking on the way down, what did I want you all to know about this man? And, you know, there really are two things I just want you to know. First, I can never think of this man without a smile on his face. You know, in today's world, it seems so rare to find someone who's just a fundamentally decent person, and Bash was that kind of guy. So all of us, you know, we miss him just as a person. And there's another piece to this too, though, and that's that the man really was a visionary. And I want you to know that as well. You know, Bash came out of Southern California Edison, and 10 years ago, at a time when most of the people working in the regulated utility field, they were stuck on the if question. The question of if we could ever have a grid powered by 100% renewable energy. Bash was already having the when discussion and the how discussion. So I just wanted you all to know that about him. It's not a sad thing. You know, Bash was a very happy guy, and this isn't intended to be a sad thing, but we just wanted to acknowledge him and do that before we moved on to the rest of the day. So anyway, thank you, and I want to welcome to join me for this discussion Aki Marceau from the Elemental Accelerator, and we're going to have a discussion about yesterday's events and what we're looking forward to today. Thank you. Well, Aki, thank you for joining us this morning, and I know you had a chance to watch yesterday. If there's someone out in our audience that didn't catch yesterday's events, what would you highlight for them, or what did they miss?
Sure. Again, thank you so much for inviting me this morning, and it's so good to see kind of the audience filling up. So this is really exciting. I was worried because we were on at 8 a.m. But yeah, I thought yesterday was a really, really great day, and I think there's three things that I would highlight for anyone that wasn't here. One is around partnerships, and the partnership between the California Public Utilities Commission and the Hawaii Public Utilities Commission is really unprecedented, and it was great to see that level of collaboration. You know, one of the things that at the accelerator we always highlight is that we cannot reach our clean energy goals without that level of collaboration and knowledge sharing and partnership. So that's one of the things that I would like to highlight.
And I know you all are very active in California. Do you see these same similarities in what you're doing, that there really are these common goals and issues?
Absolutely, and I think you know, we made the initial commitment to 100% clean energy by 2045, and they really, as the sixth biggest economy in the world, kind of followed suit and kind of put a stake in the ground that this is possible and showing the world that it is possible. And so I think with our minds and their minds together, kind of sharing knowledge, we can really move to achieve this and potentially achieve it in an accelerated fashion.
I really thought that the MOU was kind of interesting because it's changed my thinking about something. You know, in Hawaii, a lot of people who are, you know, energy experts have felt like there wasn't a synergy between having our commission deal with both energy issues and the common carriers and other transportation functions. And yet, if you think about how California is structured, you know, they have a California Energy Commission and a California PUC. And our agreement is with the California PUC, which, like our PUC, you know, covers transportation. And honestly, it has me thinking, you know, maybe we're looking at this wrong. Maybe there is a synergy where the fleets that are regulated can be early adopters for some of the things we want to do on the transportation side. So just, you know, to me, that was a really interesting potential implication of that MOU.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's one of the pieces, at least in the energy space that we overlook is that the PUC actually does have jurisdiction over private vehicle fleets, so taxis, some freight transportation, that type of thing. And I think it could potentially, if utilized in a thoughtful way, be a powerful tool to incentivize and to convert fleets into zero emissions vehicles and that type of thing. I don't know a lot about that in particular and how it could be implemented, but it's a really interesting possibility.
What did you think of our keynote yesterday with Ed Fenster and his discussion about Sunrun and solar? Any thoughts on that one?
I thought it was we consistently work in the energy space and the energy innovation space, and that's kind of where we got our roots, and so it was very, very much in line with a lot of the work that we do.
But I guess when you guys are dealing with places outside of Hawaii, is it solar that has kind of built our credentials as a place, to come? I guess that's really my question.
Absolutely. I think with the rise and fall of solar, I guess, in Hawaii, that is really what brought us onto the world stage. But there's a lot beyond that now. So we work in energy, water, agriculture, mobility, and the circular economy. And I think in addition to the policy framework that allowed for solar to happen here, there's a lot of other characteristics about Hawaii that make us appealing to the startup industry. One being the fact that we're a closed system. So in the vehicle space and in the transportation space, there isn't interstate travel between Hawaii and other states, which you do see on the continent quite a bit. And so it's much harder to kind of understand what the variables are and the dynamics are. Whereas in Hawaii, that's a pretty straightforward system that you can measure. So,
what other highlights did you have that we should kind of focus on from the first day before we talk about today?
Sure. So there were two other pieces, both focused on innovation. Surprise, surprise. One is the technology innovation. So it was great to see companies like Amp Air building electric airplanes focused on the Maui geography. And then secondly, Carbon Lighthouse that started in California but then saw Hawaii as a key market and expanded here. Other companies that were highlighted were Kvala Analytics, as well as as attendees, Opus One and eMotorworks. So we've seen a lot of technology innovation here on Maui, which is really exciting to see. And then secondly is not just the technology innovation, but also the policy innovation that we see. So these are all, we're working in these emerging markets, and so even if we have a technological fix, if the policy isn't in place to remove barriers or align incentives, then it doesn't matter how great the technological solution is. We really have to make sure that we optimize and utilize that technology in the same way. So Commissioner Potter's point about performance-based regulation and the nuances between the regulation and the rate making, was really illuminating, I thought, and really shows how Hawaii is kind of leading the way. And so not just looking at the technology, but the innovative policy framework was really exciting for me to see.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting to have the governor in a panel format, and I thought he actually performed very well. But I just thought it was a really interesting dynamic because so often we just hear him and we don't see an interaction. And I thought he was a very good defender of our energy policy, when he was up there.
Absolutely. I mean, since day one, he's been such a huge supporter. And, as an engineer, for him, I think he seemed very comfortable on stage speaking, in front of a group of a lot of engineers as well. So.
Well, I guess as we look forward to our second day of the conference, any particular things that you're looking forward to today, or we need to, I guess, clean up from yesterday? Anything else that we need to?
Sure. I have 3 challenges for everyone. So the first challenge is for people who are on stage, and Doug, feel free to comment on this. I think everyone is very polite, which I appreciate, but instead of kind of waiting for the moderator to prompt you, just feel free to have candid conversation. I don't think we can really move the conversation forward unless we're very honest, and I know that can be scary, but there was a lot of conversation about professional courage and responsibility, and I think that's something that we can really demonstrate today on stage.
No, I think that's fantastic. I think this always works best when people are interrupting each other in a polite way. You know, I mean, not talking over each other, but have something to say. And I actually, in retrospect, I kind of wish we'd had the Ampere and United on the same panel, because it was really interesting. They were both arguing professionally that the state of where we are with batteries has, you know, where it is the energy density such that it really makes sense for planes. And they both had slides, you know, saying opposite conclusions. And that is the kind of thing that we like. I mean,
I think we can make that happen for next year. And then the second challenge is actually for attendees. You know, as the commissioners have highlighted, partnerships are really important, and I encourage every single one of you not just to reach out and meet someone you haven't met, but I challenge you to make an introduction to someone for someone else. I think we need to continue to connect. That's why we're all here. And so make a challenge for yourself to introduce someone you know to someone else that doesn't know each other. And maybe try and do that 1 or 2 times.
I don't know how you top that. I think that's great advice for all of us.
And then I have a third one too. And so one of the hats that I wear is I'm on the board of a wonderful organization called Women in Renewable Energy. And I noticed that on stage, for every woman, there were actually 2 men. And so I challenge us as a collective whole, as well as the organizers, to continue to think about diversity on stage. We have a whole organization full of really wonderful professional women in renewable energy, and so they're not hard to find. And so I as an organization and as a conference and as a ecosystem, I really encourage us to think about how we can make a balanced presence, not only as attendees, but also on stage. And one thank you.
I think it's a very fair point, and the only defense I would make is that we had some cancellations and the configuration looked a little different than we expected. But I concede the point. This has to be our goal.
But one really good step is after the conference, we have a Pauhana hosted by Women in Renewable Energy. So that's a great step to meet all of us women, and it's open to everyone. And please join us. There'll be a lot of innovative companies and startups present as well who you can speak with.
Well, looking forward to today, and again, we wanted to welcome you and kind of go over things, but there are a couple things that I wanted to just highlight in our last minute or two. If you aren't really familiar with Hawaii, we're going to have a discussion today about Molokai. And Molokai is an island. It is an isolated grid. It has a population of approximately 8,000 people, load maximum around 5 megawatts, so a very tiny little grid. And we want to make sure that people coming to Hawaii for the first time understand that for this island, there are some pretty specific plans to take it to 100% renewable. And it's just a small enough scale that a lot of people won't have heard of that. So I am looking forward to people getting an opportunity to learn about that in particular today. Any other kind of last comments for people? We have 1 minute left to give people, I guess, any good thoughts for today.
Well, the conversation doesn't end today, as we all know. There's a lot going on at the legislature right now. There's a lot going on at the commission. And so I just encourage everyone to keep the conversation going. And then just to make a plug for Elemental Accelerator, our applications are open until April 12th. So if you know of any great startups, if you're working with anyone currently, please send them our way to apply. I can announce, it's public now, one of our companies, Buoy Labs, actually just had an acquisition today. So our companies are doing well. We love to support them, and we need everyone together to help us build this ecosystem of innovation in Hawaii.
Well, thanks to all of you for coming back, and we look forward to a good day too. Mahalo.